Hello and welcome to DNBC TV, where we bring you interviews with leaders in the world of business and technology. I'm Linda Tamim, and today I have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Walid David, Vice-Minister of Connectivity in Colombia. Mr. David has many years of experience working in public management, focusing on civil works and technology projects in the public and private sectors. Welcome, Mr. David. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So, where does Colombia stand when it comes to 5G access compared to other Latin American countries?
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for the invitation. Well, first of all, we have a 5G plan that we started last year, actually compared to other Latin American countries. We were the first country to come up with a plan. So we would implement 5G in an orderly way. Now, where we stand right now, we are gathering information from pilot programs that we allowed operators and other companies to do. Now we're going to start analyzing that information, and we expect to do our spectrum auction in December this year. We know no other countries have already auctioned their spectrum for 5G, like Chile, which did it like a few months back. And there are also other countries that are planning on doing this year. So we're not far off. We're kind of doing it at the same during the same year. So we're kind of known for not being behind the curve, but we want to do it in an orderly way.
That's great. You're keeping up the pace then. So what can we expect from this spectrum happening this December? What improvements will it bring?
Okay. There's a few considerations that we are taking into account. First, we know from the operators that the economy, because of the pandemic, it was not doing well, and that all the countries, not only Colombia, but in the region and around the world, are trying to reactivate the economy. So we are taking that into account because, the spectrum auctions are not cheap. But then in our newest law, which was issued 2 years ago, we changed the focus of this kind of processes. Instead of concentrated on gathering more money for the government, what we're doing is trying to maximize the community impact to benefit the citizens instead of gathering money to do other projects. But we changed that. So for this spectrum auction in December, what you're going to see is a different kind of model. One that takes into account that instead of getting a lot of resources from the auction, is letting the operators have those resources, but letting them know what to do so we can benefit the society. And that includes more coverage, fastest implementation of the 5G programs, that also it can go to lower prices in phone plans and data plans. So that's the kind of different things, and other things just to make sure that the whole country gets the coverage eventually. We have cities with a lot of population that are very attractive for the operators, but there are smaller towns where they might not see the return on investment. So one of the things we're studying is letting them compete for the big cities and then do a joint venture with the government to go to the smaller cities. So that kind of new structure is that what we're working on, to have something really different, but at the same time that makes sense economically, and at the end, the benefit for our citizens.
So you're saying that everyone, even people living in rural areas and towns, will have access to 5G. Is that correct?
Yeah, eventually. That is not that we start. We're not planning on having it as soon as we launch the 5G program, but we're going to do it. So we do it in a faster way than we did with 4G. The first 4G spectrum auction was in 2013. And the second one to get to the rural areas was in 2019. That means that it took 6 years to get from the big cities to start doing it in the rural areas. And that means that we're going to have coverage in 80% of the rural areas by 2025. So if you sum it up, it's going to take 12 years for 5G to get all the way to the rural areas. This new plan, what we're trying to do is try to shorten this time for 5G. That instead of doing it in 12 years to get to the rural areas, in this kind of structuring, we get there in half of the time.
So what are the main challenges of implementing 5G in Colombia?
Okay, there are a few, as I mentioned before, well, the economic situation due to the pandemic,
Yes.
that is one. Doing 4G deployment in the rural areas, that means that there's a lot of capital investment from the operators, and at the same time, we're trying to implement 5G. So we have to consider that, because that's going to be a challenge, trying to raise all that amount of money to do both things simultaneously.
And where do you get those funds, if I may ask, by the way?
The operators on one side, well, those are multinational companies. So they're the ones that have to raise the money in order to participate and implement infrastructure. But what we're trying to do with this new kind of spectrum option is trying for them that instead of giving that part of the money to the government, is just, invested in infrastructure deployment. That's a little different. And so the economic is something that we're considering. The other one is the infrastructure implementation. You know that it needs more antennas.
Yes.
And then we're trying to see how each city starts having, like in their city plans, allowance to deploy this kind of antennas, because it's going to be more intensive. So we're working with providers, with technology providers, just to see how that's going to impact the cities. Trying to see if with our regulation commission, to see how they're going to do infrastructure sharing, so they're not multiply the antennas in the cities, but rather try to share them, so you don't have to implement too many of them. So those are things that we're taking into account, because with the cities, it's going to be an issue with the citizens.
Yes.
They're going to say there's going to be an environmental problem, which with 4G we already have some little issues that we have been able through public policy and with information shared with the citizens, being able to tackle those hurdles, because there's a lot of misinformation about technology and the effects on health. So we're working at that along with the city officials. Okay,
so these are just myths, basically. How are citizens reacting to the implementation of 5G in Colombia, generally speaking?
They're eager to have this kind of technology. One of the things that have happened in Colombia in the last 12 years is that with the government implementing or investing a lot of resources in technology, we have become, the people have become technology savvy. And you can see that maybe not like, going out to a Colombian citizen and asking them for technology. It's not about that. You can sense that it's because the industries, it doesn't matter where from these industries come from. I'm talking about, supermarkets or delivery companies or even banks.
Yeah.
You have to see that they all have access, or let their users or clients do all the transactions online. And then we start asking why, because people are asking for it. And if they are asking for it, it's because they know about it. They know about technology. They want everything to be done easier and more in a more efficient way.
More efficient,
so 5G, and people start seeing what they're going to have speeds that are faster than the actual 4G, the current 4G. And then on top of that, you're going to have a lot more people connected simultaneously in one cell, and there's not going to be latency, or it's going to be lower. They're eager. They're starting to think what I'm going to be able to do with this. Young people, entrepreneurs start asking, about implementation. That's why we come with this plan and doing the pilot programs. So both the operators or any private company that wanted to try out the technology, we would assign a spectrum temporarily so they can try it out and see what business models could come up from it.
Okay, so speaking of the benefits of 5G, which sectors will mostly benefit from 5G access? I know, for instance, that in Chile, it's mostly telemedicine that will benefit from it. But what about in Colombia?
Okay, there are different things that we're doing over here. Now, from my perspective, and the way we're planning on deploying 5G, we have to do it with common sense. It's going to be first deployed in the cities, because that's going to be a return on investment, a sure return on investment for the operator. So they're going to be eager to deploy there first. So in the cities, the net benefit is going to come from, smart cities, Internet of Things, deployment of devices around the city, for the people to be informed about the city, and for city officials to be able to organize their cities in a smart way, more efficient way. So I think mobility is going to be highly impacted.
Yes.
That's for one. Now, cities like Bogota, which are really big, you can practice things remotely because of the high speed, low latency. They're going to see what we foresee is deployment of robotics or drones to do things around the cities. And then as we start deploying in the rural areas in a shorter time, then it's going to be the impact on medicine and telemedicine. Because if regardless of where you are in the country, if you have 5G, there's going to be an impact that specialized doctors are going to be able to meet with patients and go through, checkups, or even, this is very futuristic, but even do surgeries, from far.
Okay.
We don't see it right away. We see it more. The impact is going to be environmental, mobility, and robotics, and that is around smart cities concept.
Well, that sounds quite ambitious and quite amazing what's coming up ahead for Colombia. Vice-Minister of Connectivity, Mr. Walid David, it's been such a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you, Linda, and I'll welcome this kind of chats and exchange of information. So anytime I'm here to provide you with information about Colombia and our technology implementation.
Thank you so much.